Today we're talking about garlic scapes. And just when I thought everyone knew what a garlic scape was, last week at the farmer's market, there was two groups of people that had just had no idea and were bewildered by these crazy-looking alien garlicky doodads. So we're going to go over what is a scape, how to trim and clean them, and a few ways that I like to cook them. Don't miss the kimchi. So what are garlic scapes? This is the above-ground reproductive part of the garlic plant, but it's also present on a number of other alliums. So here's a garlic scape growing on a plant. It is a hardneck garlic variety that will give you a scape. But a lot of other plants make scapes, a lot of other alliums. There's Egyptian walking onions on the left, and ramps in the middle, and garlic scapes and wild Canadian onions on the right. What they become can kind of differ from plant to plant. Ramps here are going to make flowers and then seeds, and garlic and Egyptian walking onions are going to make bulbils, which are kind of like a little clone of the plant that's a mini edible onion you could also plant. Trimming and cleaning. I see a lot of recipes online that really don't take into account that garlic scapes need to be cooked until they're tender, and we're basically going to treat it kind of like asparagus. This is a meristem, which means it's young growing plant tissue, but it's going to get stiff as it grows. So throughout the season, they're going to get stiffer at the bottom. So it's kind of, recipes can be understandardized because the tenderness can vary depending on when this part of the plant is harvested. So I'm just going to cut a good portion of the bottom off. I could probably take a little bit more. And then we always remove this leathery, chewy, stringy top part. People cook with this on. I don't know what they're thinking. You must like green dental floss. Then the sheath that I'm removing, this may or may not be present. Some farmers at the farmer's market like to leave them on. Some take them off, but you should remove it because it's going to be chewy. Then you can see I'm going to cut off this bottom portion. This is important because the bottom part, you can see where it's straight. That whole part, that whole straight part is more tough and chewy than the rest of that part of the plant. So the big takeaway is that garlic scapes are milder than garlic, and you should think half garlic, half vegetable because you can cook them both ways because they're the mildest tasting part of the plant, which is, generally speaking, with meristems, you're going to see that happen. They're going to taste milder. Now, if you want to add them to pasta or something like that, there's a number of different ways you can cut them. If I have like angel hair or spaghetti, I'll cut them into nice thin little slices. That's a good thing to do with the bottom portion of the garlic scape because you can cook it until it's tender. Now, with the more tender part of the scape, now I'll cut them into like 1-inch pieces. You could add this to a pasta where the shape will fit the size, and that could be like ziti or penne. Okay, first recipe, big props to my friend Linda Black Elk for reminding me garlic scapes make a wicked kimchi. So this is just fermented garlic scape kimchi that is like a banchan or a Korean side dish. Good with so many things. I mean, fried rice, all kinds of stuff. You can see I'm just cutting them into bite-sized pieces. I like to leave the little bird beak tips whole because they look cool and I like them. Then we're going to blanch them. This is super important. Generally speaking, I blanch garlic scapes if they're in a piece that's larger than that kind of thin slice. Then we're going to take those blanched scapes. We just blanch them for like 60 seconds, just until they're barely tender. You can leave them a little al dente. And then you can ad-lib here a little bit. I grew my first pepper as a cayenne pepper, so I mix that in with a single walking onion and the chili paste. The recipe is on my website. You can use my dandelion kimchi. I'll link that in the video description. Then to speed things along, I have a little bit of fermented brine from nasturtium seeds, so I'm going to add a little bit of that. That is going to really jumpstart the process and make sure that the ferment gets going nice and smooth. Then we're going to pack that into a jar, and we'll leave that out for a week or two and then put it in the fridge. This can last for years in the fridge. So good, and it'll get more sour with time. Grilled garlic scapes. This is my go-to recipe. I love just going to buy a bunch and throwing them on the grill. So the big thing to know here, I was just cooking some lamb chops. I'm going to cook them on a griddle outside. But the biggest thing to know is that the garlic scapes have been blanched before they get cooked. If you take nothing else away from this video, know that garlic scapes are going to be much better if they're blanched before cooking like this. Put a little char on them, and they are just fantastic as a side dish. Garlic/vegetable. There I have them with lamb chops and a little bit of maple chili sauce from my next book. Okay, using as a vegetable or green bean substitute. So I added them to a ciambotto, just like an Italian vegetable stew, in lieu of green beans. It's kind of fun because green beans have a similar shape. You can also cook them half and half with green beans, just like a vegetable. Again, we're blanching those first for that stir fry there. So many different ways that you can cook these things. They're also really good in fermentation and pickles. One important thing to note, they seemed prone to com yeast, so I add some grape leaves when I ferment them, and that really seemed to do the trick. You can see on the right, I have grape leaves in there, and there's absolutely no com yeast, super nice and clean. Add them to pickles and sauces and anything you want. Sauces and salsas, so good. So there's a fresh tomatillo salsa that I made. I just buzz some up and then I water bath can it so they're nice and tender. Fantastic on a piece of leftover brisket. Just a few ideas for you and a breakdown of how I use garlic scapes. More information on my website. There's a link at the top of the video description for that. Thanks for watching.